And welcome back. Here we are, the Friday before Christmas. A little bit behind, but got another couple sections to talk about here in this book, Dotcom Secrets by Russell Brunson. Really realizing that this community, or the community that this guy has built, is bigger than I ever thought, right? I had always thought that this was some random stuff and something a guy came up with, and maybe it was just a small system or small thing he was selling, but it's actually turning out to be a monstrous thing. So some super cool things to talk about today. Probably going to skip over one, but we're covering sections 2 and 3. End of section 2, we're covering secrets 8, 9, and 10. The 3 of them, and I think we start to get into a little bit better stuff, right? Section 1 was really good. Section 2, little iffy, I think. Not a lot to really, for me, not a lot that I can buy into. But sections 9 and 10, probably pretty helpful. If you haven't read it yet, the book, Dotcom Secrets, there is a link in the description to buy it. It is an affiliate link. Click it, don't click it, I don't care. But it's a link to get to the book quickly on Amazon. So we'll jump right into it, right? Last time we ended... the last one was section 7 was talking about the soap opera sequence, which was a sequence of sending emails once somebody has subscribed to you or bought into what you're doing, what you want to do. You send them a sequence of emails to build up your attractive character we talked about. And that, it was a good intro into introducing your attractive character. Not so much, I think, on the how you sequence it, but hey, it's hard for a guy like me to say this when I haven't, this guy's saying he's made hundreds of thousands of dollars doing this process. So who am I to question? But some of it not for me. Anyway, I'm only going to glaze over section 8 because that goes into another sequence called the Daily Seinfeld sequence, and that's this section, or secret number 8. What it talks about is sending kind of a random email that gives a glimpse into your private life and then closes with some sort of ask. I don't think this one, I have a hard time applying this to any business other than being a consultant, right? Or unless I'm just solely a business consultant, unless I am some sort of personal consultant for somebody. I have a hard time buying into this. I don't know how an e-commerce store would do this, or a brick and mortar shop would do this on a daily basis. I feel like this is something you could send if there was a significant happening in your life that was relevant. So I'm actually going to skip over secret number 8, and we're gonna go to the next one. Let me make sure. Soap opera sequence, yeah, okay. Forget the Seinfeld sequence. If you think that's you, please, by all means, do it. I'm having a hard time understanding how to apply that. However, when we get to 9 and 10, I feel like it is where the rubber really starts to meet the road with this book in terms of, what's applicable, how do you start to convert sales, how do you start to convert people from, just common viewers or just traffic to buyers, right? And that's where we start to get into it. So the secret number 9 is called funnel hacking, reverse engineering a successful funnel. What he talks about, the general gist of this is, before you start your business or before you start your marketing efforts, is understanding who you're competing with and how you are going to compete with them, how they are competing, right? There's a bunch of tools out there that you can use to research traffic. Like, for instance, I use Keyword Finder to find good keywords for Google, kwfinder.com. There's SEMrush, semrush.com, that can help you understand traffic sources, all kinds of different metrics about yourself as well as your competitors. He mentions one in here that I actually stumbled across. I didn't hear of it from the book, but I stumbled across it just a couple weeks ago, and I'm in their email sequence now, is called SimilarWeb. where they'll give you some breakdowns of people similar to you and your business, and where they are getting their traffic from. So good, Section 9 is really about understanding where it's coming from, right? Your demographics. So he lists 5 variables that you want to take into account. The demographics, income level, race, geographic location, all that stuff. Political affiliations, where can you find it? The offer, what are you offering? What are you selling to that demographic? The landing page is number 3. Person lands on it. This is where they land after they click on your ad, or where they are drawn to. How good is it? What's working for people right now? The traffic source, which I think this is his 4th variable, but traffic source is pretty important, and I think he gets into that a little later in the chapter, because what I've found personally, not just from Swift, but the clients that I've helped, is you've got to really consider when you're doing ads, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, or Reddit, or Google, or wherever it may be, you've got to consider the mindset of that person coming from that traffic source. And that's actually what he gets into, is understanding where, how they're seeing your ad, the context of which they are seeing your marketing in, and then what they're coming to your site, and what mindset they're coming to your site in. And he talks about that. The fifth element was ad copy, so writing copy that appeals to that mindset. And ultimately what he says is how to funnel hack a successful campaign. So how do you put this together? How do you put your funnel together? And then he's saying, step 1 is where are your competitors, both direct and indirect. This is where using tools, to find out where these folks are, doing a Google search of, simply Googling an ad, or Googling let's say it's a car repair shop, putting in Google where to get my car repaired, and understanding what ads are coming up is a good way to understand who is doing well in that vertical, in that niche that you're trying to serve, right? So if I see that, I don't know, AutoZone, or the BF Goodrich tire place is right there at the top, I'll know that those are the ones that are doing things in that vertical. Those are the ones that maybe have some success there. So now I can analyze what their pages look like, and then kind of bring that over to me. And so now I'm not creating something from scratch. I'm starting it, and instead of step 0, I'm starting at step 5 to say, all right, these are the layouts that work. What do I plug in there to make it more valuable? Step 2, he says, what are they doing? That's where similar web comes in. Step 2 is understanding where are they advertising, how are they advertising, what are their advertisements saying, right? Like, how long are they advertising? Similar web, and a couple different tools will show you how long somebody's been advertising somewhere. And I highlighted it, and he says the hint is the longer the duration equals that ad is working, right? So you got to be able to look at the indicators to say that these tools give you, and they're going to give you a shit ton of data to go through. You got to figure out which ones, and understand, which ones are going to give you reliable data, which ones are going to give you actionable data to say this is actually a pretty successful thing that they're doing. Because like we talked about in, I think, sections 1, 2, and 3, is you only see the tip of the iceberg. It's the rest of the iceberg below the water that you need to try to understand here in what they are doing. There's also some tools, and in Similar Web, it'll give you some of the ads that they're running, that it has scrubbed from the internet. So you can even see what type of ads they're running, what some of the ad copy is that they're running, which is really important. So his example that he gives is, he's starting a supplement company, or has a supplement company, and he wanted to see who was doing well in that space, how they could compete with them or take traffic from them in that particular vertical. And using these tools, he could understand who he was competing with, where they were advertising, and how he can get in that game and be successful as well right off the bat, rather than blindly going into something and saying, I think I can sell a ton of this weight loss supplement, or some nerve pain supplement that he sells, just blindly going into the market and not having any ideas and just creating ads out of the blue. He can be more targeted with his advertising and get better traffic, higher quality traffic, by understanding the demographics and the steps to hacking that funnel. So section 9, pretty good. Section 9, really good application. So I actually starred the list in the Let's Review. He has a little Let's Review section at the back. I starred it because I thought it was actually a pretty good checklist, and I'll read it to you. The first one is, make a list of your direct and indirect competitors. You can learn from both and find success by kind of imitating and using both as examples. 2, find each landing page URL, meaning understand. Google search for their ads, understand what their landing pages are looking like. And then 3, enter the URL into the online research tools. 4 is collect the data, dig deep, click on links. He even buys the products. Look, some of you, that may be viable, sometimes it may not be, but it actually is, I do think, the back end of this, and I think what the rest of the book will probably talk about is, and I know he talks about it in Secret 10, is how you manage that customer on the back end, right? This right now, we're just talking about how do you get them in, how do you get them buying. But buying the products is a way to understand how your competitors treat their customers later on to increase the value, to keep them buying, things like that. And then 5, create a swipe file of ideas to model. Basically, create a file of examples and things you can pull from, so you can see it's just an example file of what works and how to imitate it, how to be successful in your advertising, be more effective with your time and effort, right? He gives a URL where he's got some other resources too. Now, we're flying through this pretty quickly because I wanted to get to number 10. I didn't want to be, I don't want this to run over 30 minutes. So I wanted to get to number 10 because I feel secret number 10 has some real value in it that you need to understand. Particularly whether, when you're placing advertising, when you're doing your ad buys, wherever it's at. You want to know what you're doing, that you're getting the most out of it, but understanding how to get people through as well. So the 7 phases of a funnel is what secret number 10 is called, and he walks you through some things. And I highlighted some, and he highlighted it too. He said the real difference between having a 6, 7, or 8-figure business. I always kind of shut down when people start mentioning that shit. Because it's like, look, let's get to how we grow the business in the first place. But the real difference between having a 6, 7, or 8-figure business is whether you understand the phases of a funnel and can successfully monetize the different points along the way. Okay, so how do you bring somebody in? How do you keep moving them up your ladder, or keep creating offers or creating value for them along your ladder that keeps them buying, right? What is that? How do you do it? And that's what he talks about here. So I'll go through again. I highlighted the money you make in your business depends on how well you manage the experience of every person who comes in contact with you, no matter how long they stay. So even if somebody comes to your landing page, well, I'll do this in the context of an e-commerce site, right? But even if somebody comes to your landing page and you're selling a book. I just bought another book. I bought the next book for this. I actually bought it because it was using one of the ClickFunnels pages. I thought the page was interesting. The book I hope is going to be interesting. I think you'll know it when we start it. But in any case, how long they stay. So I bought that book because it used one of these pages, and I wanted to understand the page structure. What was the offer? And of course it's the, get the book free, pay shipping, or I paid for the book and got free shipping in this case. So it's what's the offer? How do you get them right then? And then how do you keep qualifying them and turning them into a better buyer over time? Talks about it's all about the pre-frame. And this is interesting, right? So this I'm tying a bunch of things together because I've read it and it's fresh. But in your ads, you want to set the tone in somebody's mind, right? You want to set the tone with your traffic. If somebody's going to click on it, you want to hit them at that point where they say, I need this, I want this, how do I do this? And you want to answer that question. Your ad wants to answer those questions. I don't know what those questions are. You got to think of those in some cases. But the point is you do that, your ad should do that, so that way when they come to you, they're in the right mindset to become part of your ecosystem, to become a buyer, to become a subscriber, to be more interested and see you as trusted and valued, right? So he talks about pre-framing before the sale, which is important. In his, he mentions by example how his sales, he would go do a talk at these events, and then his sales at the end of it could be hit or miss. And somebody told him before one, he says, it's all about how I introduce you. If I don't introduce you very well, you're not going to sell much after because the audience won't be engaged. But he said if somebody introduces him really well, then he sells exponentially more after he gets and this is super true, right? If you're going to listen to somebody talk and the presenter simply does hey, I want to welcome to the stage, John Smith or Jack Sparrow, and he's a pirate, he sails the Black Pearl, here he is, give him a round of applause, right? That's not a super engaging way to grab your audience. But if somebody stands up there and can, give a little bit of an introduction with a little bit of some enthusiasm and some energy, then that totally changes the mentality of the audience that's listening, right? And I think this goes for any presentation. I think back to my grad school days when it was, now I'm going to bring up Tom and he's going to talk about the financials of the business. Well, if I would say, our financial guy, Tom, he's one of the best. He has spent time with Raymond James doing this for the past 5 years, and he's spent the last several weeks analyzing our business model and understanding where exactly we can be successful. So I'm going to turn it over to Tom, and he's going to introduce you folks to our financials. Probably a totally different mindset from both of those, right? And that's what he talks about with the pre-frame, and something you need to consider when placing when coming up with the creative, right? I'm going back to the Gary Vee quote that says, the creative is the variable. Because I do believe right now, more than ever, we're an aesthetic society, and people want to see quality, see expertise as much as they want to hear it. We're visual. That's the basics. So how to pre-frame your presentations for higher sales, blah, blah, blah. How pre-framing works. How pre-framing works, I got to, this goes back to getting people in the right mindset. But he has a paragraph in here. I'll read it to you because I thought this was important as well. If your prospect is aware of your product and has realized it can satisfy his desire, your headline starts with the product. If he is not aware of your product, if your prospect's not aware of the product, but only the desire itself, your headline starts with the desire, right? So now we're tweaking headlines and how we present it. If he's not yet aware of what he really seeks, but is concerned with the general problem, your headline starts with the problem and crystallizes into a specific need. So why is this gold, right? Because everybody's going to tell you, every presentation I've ever given, whether it was for pitching for money for a new business idea, whether it was pitching in a class, whether it was just pitching an idea to a group of people, it's always been start with the problem and then explain the problem. Whereas this is telling you to do it a little bit differently. This is telling you to address the context of which your customer is in, the mindset of which your potential prospect or customer is in, right? Like if you're buying an ad at a very specific website, I'll use the auto shop again. If I'm buying an ad for my auto shop and I'm advertising on a website about cars, I know guys know about my product. They know about, let's say, tires. how do I advertise the tires there, right? So that would be so I would use satisfy the desire. Your headline starts with the product. So if I want to satisfy the desire, headline starts with the product. So that's important, and that has to do with having cold traffic, warm traffic, and hot traffic, right? Cold traffic. For these people, you need to focus your copy on the problem because that's what they're most aware of. So you're capitalizing on what your prospective client or what your prospective buyer is aware of. Warm traffic consists of people who don't know you, but they have a relationship with somebody you know or something. That's fine. He talks about cold traffic again. Phase 2 is to set up the pre-frame bridge. I'll let you guys read that. There's nothing super groundbreaking there. I think what else? What else is important from this one? So he does say to go phase 3 is qualify subscribers, right? And he says the whole goal here is to take all the traffic, hot, warm, and cold, and find out who is willing to give you an email address in exchange for money. Or, I'm sorry, in exchange for information. So who's willing to give you an email address in exchange for information? This is why every marketer and their brother tells you to write an ebook or something like that. But what I would say is if that is what you are going to do, if you're going to trade information for money, don't write something general. Write something very specific. Even if you have to do it a few times, if you're specific with what you are addressing, you'll hit the right people and you'll hit those pain points. And I think more so, you're going to get a more engaged audience with your offers. So this is the very front end of your value ladder, right? So I'm giving you something, you're giving me an email address. This is the bottom rung to get up to the next one. Phase 4 says, so phase 3, you qualify the subscribers. Phase 4, you qualify buyers. So he says to qualify buyers right away. Now, what does that mean, right? So you've given me an email address, you've downloaded this thing. So what I would say is if you're building a landing page and you're asking for this information, as soon as somebody enters that email address, hit submit, they're redirected to another page that you have built. So now you're not just your landing page, now you're on another page that says thanks for your information. How about buying this book, or would you be interested in one other upsell or downsell? And he says, I usually use a free plus shipping offer or something in the $5 to $7 range. So what's a product in your business you can give away for free, but still charge for shipping for? This bugs my ass sometimes just because I know how much shipping costs, having dealt with a lot of e-commerce stores, and I know that sometimes shipping is only $2, but you're charging me $5 or $7, and so I know you're still making money on the deal, but here nor there. So then he says he converts the list, which I think this is actually more important than just one line, is he now has a list of subscribers and he has a list of buyers, and you treat them both differently. I think, look, most of us, if you're like me, I have seen my clients do. You have so many lists of subscribers for every special you've done, for every promotion you've sent to kind of tailor everything. But I think what's important is to consolidate those lists at some point and say, look, here's my subscribers and here's my buyers. And that way you can manage the two. You can get more granular after that. I would say you could get more granular on a focus level, but not on just a broad level. There's no reason why you need 20 subscriber lists for different promotions, as much as you need to be more focused on what those people and moving those people up your value ladder, right? So having the high value list versus a bunch of low value lists, essentially. Phase 5 is identify the hyperactive buyers. That's the people that'll keep buying over and over. Who's in pain right now, and what are they willing to buy right now to alleviate that pain? So someone's bought something from you. What other products can you put in front of them to buy? Like somebody wants to buy right now. They have an issue. They just want to buy everything about it. How do you do that? I think he's going to get more into that. I'm not. He gives a very vague example about it. Phase 6 is to age and ascend the relationship. To me, this is all right, you've purchased my product. 3 weeks later, I'm going to hit you with an email that says, hey, don't forget to review your product. Here's a $5 off, or here's something for leaving a review. How do you get some feedback and make that person feel, and this is just me, but how do you make that person feel valued and their opinions valued? Because I think that's what ultimately a lot of people want, right? They want to know that their opinion means something. So if you can find some sort of way to re-engage somebody that's bought from you, I think that would go a long way to making them a more engaged fan, a more engaged customer and client. Phase 7 and the last of this is to change the selling environment. This is probably, I feel like this is more for the consultants again, but changing the selling environment is that as you get to the top of your value ladder, or you have something more expensive that you want to introduce, this is where you do it, right? This is where you can get people on the phone, salespeople can get direct feedback and kind of overcome objections, but this is where you're trying to sell the higher value items that you have. So you're taking it offline, you're putting it in a person's hands and getting a bit more intimate with your communications. So that is today's sections. Coming up next, I don't know when it's going to be because Christmas is on Tuesday, but it'll be either before or after, maybe this weekend. We're going to do sections 12, or 11 and 12. So 11 is the 23 building blocks of a funnel. I don't know where 12 is, but we'll look it up real quick. Of course, I didn't mark this one. You gotta be kidding me, man. It's probably 40 pages. And then section 12 is the front end versus back end funnels. I'm actually interested in that. I'll be interested to see what he says there and discover what, how he separates the two with the front end and the back end. So yeah. So thanks if you've made it this far, I greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to check me out on, that's my email address right there, Leon@LeonMcintosh. You can find me on Facebook right there, LeonMcintosh24, and then on Instagram @LeonMac24. So got any questions, comments, concerns, want me to relate some of this to your business and just have a general discussion about it, feel free to email me. Always looking to collaborate, but thanks for joining. Get up, get busy, make it an awesome Friday, and we'll see you again soon.